even our best hydroponic growers with the best plans to keep insect pests out of the greenhouses here in Florida always have some escapees, ones that get into the greenhouse. And Richard, I see you scouting some of our crop here, and tell us a little bit about some of the ones that we would expect to find in these scouting expeditions here in Florida.
Well, experience has shown us that there's a number of pests that seem to show up time after time in greenhouses in Florida. Spider mites is one, broad mites is another one that can be very serious pests, very difficult to find. Silverleaf whitefly is another one that can not only show up on crops but can also transmit disease, as do thrips and aphids. So these three are very critical on finding them early through some sort of monitoring technique. And then we have another insect that's kind of unique. It doesn't really cause that much damage to the crop, but just sheer numbers of them can cause cosmetic problems when they're all over the crop. And that is fungus gnats. So those are the ones that I'd be most concerned with, although we can see some others from time to time.
And Richard, I know that all those that you're describing there are pretty small pests, and we typically don't see some of the larger ones, things that we would be commonly familiar with out in the field, things like grasshoppers and worms and other things. And I know as long as we do a good job in keeping the greenhouse tight, filling up any holes, doing a good job with insect screening materials and things like that, that really we don't see those very commonly in the greenhouse unless we've made a mistake somewhere along the line. So if you have these small pests that are going to be hiding from us, make it difficult for us to find us, how can we go about doing a good job of catching them early when they begin to establish themselves in the greenhouse?
Well, there's no one good way for monitoring these very small pests. I like to use a hand lens like this. It's about a 10x, 10 times magnification. For example, for examining individual flowers, you can oftentimes see thrips down in the flowers using a hand lens like this. Another good sampling technique is a yellow sticky card. For a number of insects are attracted to the color yellow. And so this is a yellow plastic card that's coated with a very sticky material, and whiteflies, fungus gnats, thrips, and winged aphids are attracted to this card. And of course, once they land, they're stuck there. So you can go in and count the number of individuals that are there. This has the added advantage is that it's in the greenhouse 24 hours a day, so you do not necessarily have to be present when they land because they will be stuck there. Another great sampling technique for examining a good number of amount of foliage is this magnifying headband. It's not as high a magnification as a hand lens, but it does have the added advantage that it gives you both hands free, and it also gives you more foliage that you can look at in a shorter period of time because it has a wider field of view. So this is very useful for sampling in greenhouses. Another technique that I like to use is just a plain white piece of paper. If you just put this in under a plant or a plant part that you want to sample and just bump the plant part onto the paper, the insects will fall onto the paper, and then you can count them that way. So it's a great way for sampling a lot of foliage in a fairly short period of time.
Richard, those sound like excellent techniques. I know it's really important for us to catch these bad guys early in the population, and if we can catch them early with these good techniques, then we've got some management strategies that we can deal with them. If we miss them and they begin to get established in the greenhouse, the further along that establishment phase is, the more difficult it is to control them. So if we can catch them early with some of these techniques, using sticky traps and rotating new sticky traps into the greenhouse weekly or periodically, and staying on top of it, maybe we can find them early and eliminate the damage that they may potentially cause to us here in Florida, because here in Florida, we know that we're going to have some pests that are going to make it into our greenhouse.